Hi, hello, happy Sabbath and Shabbat Shalom. It's about time here after a minute to feed the little boys here. Papa Bear and Mighty Mutt. Yes. As soon as I'm done with my report, I will feed you all and move you into the other pen. So they're starting to eat more hay and grain, and hopefully by August they'll be weaned. Because that is kind of sloppy and messy, and it's a hassle. And as they get bigger and heavier, it's harder to pick them up. To move them. These babies are getting along pretty good. They're all sleeping in the feed crate or out just wherever they find the Mercury crawling over her mama. And her brother Bismuth just laying there like, whatever. And then Sally is pirating the feed box over there. She's just sitting right in the middle of the feed box. And then Pecan is trying to eat her ears off. And then, where's Praline? I don't see Praline. Maybe I was thinking that was Sally and it was Praline. There's the problem with having too many of them with blotchy markings on them. Oh, okay, this is Praline right here. Now, Praline got disbudded here recently. I'm treating him right now for coccidiosis. He's not dead yet, but he's kind of scrawny and strangly from it. Yeah, Pecan's the one facing our direction down by the water bucket there. Yeah, that's Pecan. And then Sally's over there on her mama now. Hopped out of the feed bin to feed. And then in here we got Goldilocks right there. Here's your Goldilocks. Here's your baby. And then there's Daisy by her mama. Caroline in the corner. Ginger right there. There's Silver and Jumpy Jeff. Silver got up. Yes. I'll feed you all here briefly. Now the rain we got revived the grass pretty well. And the Rose of Sharon really decided to take off and bloom once it had adequate water. The littler Rose of Sharon, which is white, is one of its seedlings, one of its babies, but it's a white flower instead of a purple one. So, but this is the parent, that's the child. This day lily here, or giant lily here, hasn't flowered in a long time. Something's been chewing on it. Deer, I'm guessing. But it managed to get a flower or two off. It's been a couple years since it successfully flowered, and that we got it recorded anyway. And then of course you can see mimosa flowers from up there. And then there's some some kind of dayflower thing. Anyhow, I forget the name. I sometimes know it. But anyhow, blue dayflower. Our surprise lilies have come up. They're all looking pretty good. I mean, they always look a little bit peaked, except for that first moment that they open. I noticed some of them have little bitty tinges of blue or gray on them. Never seen that before. Not that it wasn't there, it's just I never saw it there before, so I don't know. More of those day flowers. They're not as abundant this year, but probably because they've been mowed a lot. The yellow coneflower is almost finished blooming. It is on its kind of last hurrah. My little privacy hut for Sugar, I put a fence wire around it because she kept wrapping herself around the pillars, and the varmints like to run through here and grab her feed bin and take off with them. I caught a raccoon last week and took it off and put it in the national forest. Hopefully it doesn't manage to find its way back. Down here, the peach tree, although Sugar, the deer, and other goats that got out have chewed on it a bit, it's still growing and progressing, getting happier, bigger. And the celery is lush and abundant. Again, looking for seeds on it. Our one lone hazelnut is growing along. This thing is flowering for next year. Just slowly, gradually flowering out for next year. And if we get through this tree branch that I have yet to cut down because my chainsaws are all broken, more surprise lilies all down through there. And some over here. I'm not at a good angle there. Get past my stash of aluminum. I don't know. There's, yeah. Never a really large amount of them. Black-eyed Susan. I keep forgetting what they call them. I forget everything. The tomatoes still growing, putting on fruit. All the potatoes have failed. They're gone. So that's not a thing anymore. The ironweed looking pretty happy. Putting out lots and lots of rich purple flowers. Not necessarily in a uniform manner, but they're there. The cherries, to my shock and awe, have actually ripened this year for the first time since I've been here. Of course, there's a wasp on it, I gotta watch out. But I might try to harvest some of these cherries if I figure out a good, safe way to do it. Otherwise, they're just gonna fall to the ground. Some of my seedling avocados are doing good. Some of them aren't doing so good. Some of them are curling up and probably they may die, or they may just come back from the ground again. I don't know. My lemongrass has roots on it now, so hopefully I'll be able to get something out of that. There's the live trap sitting over here from where I last set it whenever I took it off the truck. Just sat it right there and walked about it. Huh, there is a potato. It just took eternity to sprout. That one sat in there for a long time and did nothing. I wrote it off as not going to do anything. And, oh well. At least it's not directly under a black walnut like the other one, so maybe it'll do better. So all this water came from the rain we got the other day. I did a brief, same with that was empty. I did a brief report on that directly. The floor was flooded, that floor in there was inundated, and so there was a couple inches of standing water in there. My pole saw is all apart because this part right here melted internally. So the motor and the clutch is in a proverbial basket case, waiting on me to get replacement parts. Everything in there, although the handle, some of the throttle parts were melted a little bit, they'll still work. All the stuff inside the main shaft still works. It's just this part in here got jammed up and melted, and it's pretty damaged, and I have to get new parts for that right there. I still have not yet put the phase converter capacitors back in it, partly because I was going to make a holding bracket to hold them up while I test them, and the driver for the that particular type of hole saw went missing, so I don't know where it's at. And since I don't know where it's at, I obviously can't use it. I have to find it wherever I put it. We will make a very brief trip downstairs to display a little bit of the flooding. And I say brief because I get an idea that it's possible that the field, since I'm in canvas deck shoes, won't be passable, whereas I was in there the other day in my cement boots and it was a foot deep. Up there, some more surprise lilies. I forgot to mention that those sunflowers up on top of the hill, the rain lit them up. They were looking dead. Had that rain come earlier when the gladiolas were blooming, the gladiolas would still probably be in full bloom. They went through their blooming stage in the hottest, driest part of that last phase, and so they bloomed, but they withered, pretty wilted, and pretty quickly. So the plant's alive, but the flowers came and went real fast. This is all, the grader came down here to kind of make, scratch and patch came through here and made the road quasi-flat, quasi-passable. I need to come back in here and fix it now that they've done what they've done to it, because you can see this soft, mushy area where they cut through the base rock again. And so it's going to turn back into muck. Of course, my own road is looking pretty ragged. I'll have to mess with that too. Eventually I need to put a culvert in there. Ironically, I put some base rock in there, and that base rock's still there. It's just been eroded around. Neighbors are probably working on something. I didn't realize that tree was down. Anyhow, since the tornado came through here, knocked a bunch of trees down. You might see trees down other places, but we're mostly focusing on floodwater. So yeah, all this here, you can see all the organic debris here in the field now from the flooding. I'm glad it didn't wash any of my fence wire away. That would have been most inconvenient. It's brand new wire and very expensive, but the fact that it dragged it into the field the way it did is kind of inconvenient too, because now I got to move it to, and then there was a paint can that was floated downstream, as well as other things that floated. It's got paint in it. It's just it was sitting over here with this stuff until the flood washed it. downstream a little ways. Maybe I can get through here. It looks like the water's receded enough that I'll just put this up here with the rest of that stuff where it was before. Yeah, this right here was over a foot deep in water right here. Now I need to eventually fill this up with soil and level it to reduce that from happening again. My erosion barrier failed. Epic fail, as a lot of people call it, as it went all the way around at high speeds and still got where I was trying to keep it from getting. Oh well, didn't do it too much harm, but let's see, deer hoof prints. It's all right. So getting up here, the elderberries got knocked over and swamped pretty good. You can see it scoured the old garden plot out, and what was my attempt at putting potatoes in a sack to raise them up before I realized that that walnut tree was poisoning them. I have made the unwitting bad decision of parking my potatoes under walnut trees several times, and it turns out that they are poisoned by walnut trees and sensitive to the stuff in it. So this is going to be probably not serviceable as edible fruit because of the simple fact that it's so full of dirt and trash. Had it stayed above the water line, it'd been fine, but since it got trashed out, I can't do anything with it, so that whole crop is ruined, unfortunately. It just happens that way. At least I know where there's plenty of Bermuda grass growing in this field. A couple years ago there was no Bermuda grass in this field at all. And then the last thing I want to point out, by the way, a lot of the tall standing weeds didn't stand up to the wash where the water was going fast, so the field looks more open now than it was because, well, I guess it is more open. It's flat. Those poke bushes were high enough up they weren't knocked over, so they're doing fine. And here you can see the water come racing along here, and it probably made 4.5 feet deep in the middle of the creek during all this. See all this fresh sand? I'll just have to scoop that up for making cement stuff with. Alright, now we get to see how much damage the grapevine suffered. They did suffer some some damage. The poles are yanked up out of the ground again, and so the water came up, yanked on the fence, yanked the fence out again, and so the grapevine is suffering a little bit, but the grapes on the vine that aren't affected adversely are still doing all right. So it has to see the vine got stripped back real hard right there. So some of it suffered damage like that. There are different amounts of damage on it, but on the overall, the plant will survive. I'll just have to fix my trellis plans for it a little better. And other than that, like I say, the poke that was up here on this elevation is high enough up that it wasn't affected by the torrential washout like the low spots were. And just, I want to raise the whole field up high enough to be out of the flood zone eventually. So, yeah, kind of a overview of that wash. I'm not going to go over there today because that's going to be wet and full of quicksand. Just a brief snapshot. Everything else is pretty much same. Grapes are still on the vines, and everything's looking hopeful for a good harvest this fall. So don't figure I'll revisit too much of it. And so I will see you next report.